We're going into the world that a lot of you do not even think about until somebody close to you gets sent to that world. It's a world where people live 40, 50 in a cell, very hot, almost forgotten. The atmosphere, when I went there for the first time, it was really oppressive. And when I came out, I thought, wow, we don't even know what we have when we are walking around free. I'm talking about the world of the prisons. And our guest for inspiration today is somebody who willingly goes into that world to do what she can. We're going to find out what pushes her to do what she does and why she does it. Today we're looking at the life and times of a lawyer and advocate for prisoner rights. Her name is Sarah Adetola. Sarah, good morning.
Good morning.
And welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
This one told me so much about you.
Sarah feels like funny for me. I know Femi.
Okay, so Sarah Femi Adetola. It's nice to have you here.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So you're a lawyer and you love prisoners.
I do. I think it's my calling for me to help the prisoners. That's the way I contribute. I practice that. I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I own a restaurant, Red Chili. So I didn't want to not practice law, and I'd been signed up with legal aid since I was called to the bar. It allows me the flexibility to run my business. And over time, as I went through the prisons, I noticed that a lot of the prisoners who came were already feeling dejected. It was almost a sense of guilty till proven innocent, even though it's supposed to be innocent till proven guilty. I noticed that the prisoners themselves didn't understand what the court processes were about. Some of them would sit in court, they would just see the lawyers do what they're supposed to do, the prosecutors, etc., and they didn't understand. So it would be one person asking you, lawyer, can you please explain this? And you'd explain it to them, and then I got into it. And then I went by the prisons and the conditions or the situation, the people who are there. Some of them have been on remand for 5 years and have never been to court, apart from when they went the first time and they were remanded for 2 weeks. And they come from, underprivileged backgrounds, so their mothers can't chase after the courts. They don't even understand the process of getting the record of proceedings or getting the charge sheets, and they just keep getting tossed up and about. So basically, I step in to take over the case, see what we can do about it. Because if you are arrested, per Article 13B of the Constitution, you must be taken to court within 48 hours. The excuse of we couldn't find a vehicle to take you, the excuse of we're still conducting an investigation, it's a violation of your human rights, So some of them don't even know that. Some don't even know that when you're arrested, you have a right to counsel. Some of them don't even understand exactly what's going on. It's very difficult to be arrested, let alone not knowing, what your fate is.
So what do you do specifically? You represent them at the courts?
I represent them at the court.
You counsel them?
What
do you do with them?
I represent them at the courts, and I have a program, called the Justice Initiative. It's the public interest arm of Ampin Chambers, which is run by Nana Santibedieto. So I'm the director of the Justice Initiative. So we represent them in court. We take them through the process, explain to them what their charges are, what is supposed to happen, so they know what has befallen them. We also send care packages once a week to them. Because
what's inside this care package?
Well, as you're all aware, the prisons are overcrowded. The food is not great, sure, as in Labadi, but at least they're entitled to have good nutrition. So we send bread, uncooked rice for the meal, tinned tomatoes, yams, sweet potatoes, toiletries, soap, basic amenities. And then for the female side, there's a bit more, slightly better. So they have a kitchen that they cook. So we send Milo, this way. They love this way, and this way chocolate drink. And then we send milk, sugar, etc. Just things to make let them have something to eat, and also to make them a bit more comfortable.
Feminine products, sanitary pads, things like that. Do you send
well,
those?
they provide it for the females, feminine products and stuff like that. But occasionally, if we get a donation of soap, etc., we'll send it to them, yes.
So what, do you give these packages to the prisoners themselves, or
Yes.
you leave them for the officers to be given them?
No,
I'm looking
I
at
give
how
it to the prisoners themselves. I don't want to spread myself thin, and I wish, if we had the funding or the resources to be able to do more than we can do, but we are limited. So for it to be effective, we have a number of people on the program. So some people will ask to get on my program, and as and when we vet it to see. I mean, between a remand prisoner and a convict prisoner, I'm going to have to take the remand prisoner because he hasn't even had his day in court, So those are some of the criteria. But it's very sad to have to turn some people away because we're not able to provide the help that they need. Yes.
I'm just wondering, you could have chosen to have a really high-flying career and, do your corporate law. Why are you hobnobbing with prisoners?
Somebody actually asked me what I'm looking for from God. But I don't know. I think I get my inspiration from my grandmother. My grandmother is Mrs. Sophia Duca. She's 92 and she's very active. She's an educationist. And growing up, I would see all sorts of people come down her house, and she always had change to give them. And I used to tell her, you're letting all these people into your house and they could just, come and attack you or something like that. But she was so consistent. And then I realized that it's just something that is in me naturally to help people. And I think that they are the neediest. And my prisoners are, they're like family for me.
Say your prisoners. yeah, go ahead. They're like family to you.
Yeah, they are like family to me. I could go to the prisons and they would tell me they don't like my hairstyle,
Okay.
And I don't judge them because people forget that it could happen to anybody. The prisons has everybody. They're educated people, uneducated people, doctors, they're everybody, So, and people make mistakes in life. We are very judgmental when it comes to that everybody in the prison is like guilty. I've dealt with hardened criminals, and even I've questioned that at the time before I only did remand, and I've questioned like this, he has 30-year sentence. I'm looking at his record of proceedings, and what I'm reading is heinous. But
like what?
That armed robbery, took a gun. I mean, the spate of armed robbery in this country is appalling, and it's scary, it's frightening, even for me. And I'm looking at him, and he's been there for 8 years, and he's like, he has a position in the prison where either he counts people or makes sure that the people in the cell does what he has to do. And I'm trying very hard to think, I can't believe you did all this. And I speak to him, and he admits it to me, and he tells me he was at a bad time in his life. And I speak to him over the weeks, and he tells me how he comes from a broken home. I speak to him over the weeks, and he tells me how there was nobody who's ever told him that they cared. So even the bread that you're giving him means so much to him. So it's a root cause problem that we're not addressing. Sending somebody to prison, an 18-year-old, and sentencing him for 10 years, you don't expect him to come out, singing a hymn necessarily.
And I was going to go there because then for you, the whole idea is to bring hope to these people who've been incarcerated. And for somebody like, that example that he just gave us, what kind of hope, what will they have?
Well, generally as human beings, if you don't have hope, you have no purpose to live. If somebody has a 30-year sentence and he feels like he's just failed, there's no hope for him, he'll just continue to deteriorate. He will not even be an example to the other prisoners. He will encourage bad vices. He will encourage all sorts of bad behavior. The same behavior with which sent him there, he will feel like that is his only resort. But when you make him believe in himself and you make him know that, you're here because of your actions and accountability, they hold responsibility for their actions. And let them know that it's not over, but you can live a positive life even in the prison.
What are yours? Sorry.
Kaf, just before you go there, in your conversations with them, do you get that sense of remorsefulness that they really have regretted the crimes that they have committed or whatever had gotten them into the prisons?
Well, remember, they're in a very difficult place. The conditions, like Kaf said, is terrible. So you're not going to get that the first day. They're going to be defensive. There's a wall. So he's going to tell you how he wants to tell it to you. It takes time for them to even acknowledge that part of themselves. So yes, over time, when you speak to them, they're able to admit to you that, yes, I did it and I was wrong. and stuff. But some people will tell you straight up. Most of the females are quicker to tell you, you know, express remorse as opposed to the male. Yeah, I find that the women are, maybe because I'm a woman, but
It must be an incredibly depressing environment that you work in, but I am sure there are some bright spots. What are some of the successes you can count in the work that you do?
well, very successful is one case I remember. Ifeanyi Chan, she was charged for conspiracy to commit crime, robbery, and she was sentenced to 15 years, and she had served 7 years of her sentence. And the first time I saw her, she was very petite, and I inquired about her age, and she was very young. She must have been like 23 at the time, or 24. I can't remember clearly. And at the time that the crime was committed, she was a juvenile. Now, our juvenile laws does not allow you to incarcerate juveniles. And I was looking at her and I was thinking, even now, having spent 7 years in prison, if I saw her now, I'd ask her age because she looked like a 14-year-old. So I wondered 7 years ago how she looked like for any judge not to have made inquiry as to her age. So I took up the case, and she didn't have a birth certificate. Her mother had passed, and I couldn't prove her age. We tried to do a bone test. The test, it was not inconclusive, but they couldn't use it because the test just verified that she was over 18, which we all knew because at the time we were in court, she was over 18. So I had to go to her school. She remembered she had gone to school for 2 years in a school somewhere in Kumasi and get a letter. And luckily, the headmaster remembered her and get a attestation that she was at the school. And then she was released. When she was released and she, you know, the judge read the judgment, she didn't understand. So she came back and sat at her seat. And, you know, the other prisoners, you know, broke out in jubilation. And then she understood. It was even hard for her to take it in. I had to travel. 3 weeks later, the order was still not sent to Insaum for her to be released. So I went there and they said she was depressed. She would just sit down the whole day and not speak. And she said to me, "Lawyer, I thought in Tree that the judge just said it because everybody was there, but they hadn't released me. So now I had to come back and chase after the order." And then she was released. And she was just there. I didn't know what, like, you know, I just realized they release you and leave you at the gate. And they give you, before the prison officials reprimand me, they give you money for wherever you were sentenced to be able to take it back. If you were sentenced in Kumasi, they'll give you money to be able to get back. So I had to take her in. So I took her in, gave her a job at my restaurant, and it was her birthday. We celebrated her birthday, and we tried to assimilate her back into normal.
Listen, and I'm wondering, for somebody like you talk about how that she was depressed at a point and all of that. Did we look at options like psychological, you know, engagements where you brought in people to, you know, speak with her to get her out of that situation that she found herself in?
Yes, we tried, but, you know, I realized something that I myself, you know, as I was developing this program, realized that there's she left on her own accord, you know.
Wow, like ran away.
Well, I spoke to her just yesterday.
Unannounced.
But I spoke to her yesterday.
Okay.
She left. I mean, she had a place to stay, you know. I had to thank my parents because I bring all sorts of people to their house.
Wow.
And, you know, they have extra space. And so my mother was, you know, always made sure she had food. My mother banned her from even eating gari, you know. But she was so programmed because at 4 o'clock they go in. So at 4 o'clock she would, like, recluse, you know. She was so programmed. And that's when I realized that it's not enough to just get them out. We actually need to have reformatory processes. We need to, you know, help them on what to do when they get out. Like how in America you have halfway houses where they stay there and transition, you know, and be able to have access to psychologists, to access to life coaches, etc., so that they can get into the, you know, life again. So if your child left, I was very upset.
But you said she spoke to you yesterday.
I speak to her I speak to her.
Where does she say she is now?
She's in Kumasi and with a friend, and I guess maybe she, I don't know at the time, you know, but she didn't, it was difficult for her to just get back into life, and she's never been loved before, so it was just too much, you know. She had a birthday cake. I sent the pictures to you guys. You know, we had a birthday for her, just cutting cake. It was just too much, too quick, you know. So I speak to her very often, and I keep up with her progress, and she's now selling used clothing, and she says she hasn't found a boyfriend yet.
Working on it, I'm sure.
She says she's working on it.
Okay.
What do you get from all of this? What's in it for you?
I'm just
Apart from the
fulfilled.
agreement with God.
I don't know. I just think to be able to make a difference in somebody's life is an amazing thing to do for me, you know.
If you could redesign the justice system from where you interact with it, what would be that ideal system that you would design, Sarah?
There's some sentences that need not be given. There's some sentences, some offenses should be non-custodial. A 17-year-old or an 18-year-old who steals a mobile phone, for example, is charged with stealing, will go to court. He's at the prime of his age, he's very impressionable, he's on a get-rich-quick mentality. Somebody like that needs a mentor. I mean, I'm not saying he shouldn't, you know, pay the repercussions of his crime, but there are alternative ways to sentencing him to ensample. You could have him do community service. You could have him report to the police station once a week. Let him be able to understand what's going on. Let him speak to other people who are older, who've been in the prison, to tell them what it's like, to deter them from wanting to come there. Some of them don't know what it's like in the prison. So or even the prisoners who are there, we can make use of them. Let them tell people that, look, this is not a place for you to be. If I had made right decisions, I wouldn't be here, and I don't want you to do the same. In America, they have a Scared Straight program where young students who are getting wayward actually visit the prisons to see what it's like and give them a reality, because sometimes at that age you can't tell that the choices I'm making are going to lead me here.
Yeah.
You know,
I think it's a reality show.
Yeah, it's a reality show, and I think it's important that we add all of that to our system, because, you know, crowding the prisons and thinking that we're getting them off the streets and not dealing with the root problem of it is just going to, you know.
Indeed,
keep
and
the cycle.
on that note, I want to take you to the ruling not too long ago on bailable, you know, offences.
Yes.
Your impressions, how does that tie in with the conversation that we're having?
I think it is one of the best things that's happened to the criminal jurisprudence, because sometimes people can come to court, the facts may not entirely support the charge, but because it's not a bailable offense, they're forced to be in jail for however long it takes till the trial starts. And even though sometimes, yes, some offenses, you know, it's clear maybe that prima facie that it happened, but it's very important that you give people the opportunity to be able to get bail in certain peculiar circumstances.
So it's good news.
For me, it's good news.
Okay. Just 30 seconds left. What's for the future with what you do? What can we look forward to?
Well, I'm hoping that we can get more donations and more funding so that we can help more prisoners. But I'm excited about, I'm planning to have a prison program where they have different speakers, because they're used to having the preachers and the men of God come, which is great. But we need something more of a follow-up.
So what kind of speakers? I'm
Yes.
interested.
I want you there.
Yes.
I want you.
I want to
there.
come.
I want
Put me
you
on the
there.
bill.
I'll put you there. You don't have a choice.
Well, it's interesting to have people who've been there
Yeah.
before as well, you know, to share their experiences. I don't know if you're thinking about that.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I actually would like a round table with prisoners. I'm working on a case. I'm hoping that he gets out. He'll be a great advocate for that.
Okay. Well, Sarah, thank you so much. Is that a number people can reach you on?
Yes, please. 026-371-1014.
Again.
Thank you, sir.
Same.
026-371-1014. We're grateful for everything.
Thank you so much, Sarah,
Thank you
and
so
God
much.
bless.
God bless you.
And say hello to your grandma.
I will.
And
Indeed.
that's our conversation on.
Hey,
Thank
God bless
so
you.
much.
For your
Yes.
Thank you so
kindness.
much.
She has